Hey guys, Greg here from Lens Pro to Go, and today we're going to be dusting off a dictionary, and I'm going to be teaching you some basic must-know lighting terms. Let's get into it. First up is ambient light, and this is the light that's in a scene or location before any additional lighting is added. So when you first walk into a room, any light that's there before you start putting up your own lights to light the scene is what's going to be considered ambient light. This could be an office space if you can't turn off the overheads, or if you're in a studio, even the light leaks coming from under the door, anything that's adding light to that room is going to be considered ambient light. So let's check out this scene and see what we have going on. So we have these two big windows in the front here. There's actually a third one that's off the screen from this light here. And then there's also three in this back room that are hidden behind that wall. Now, all of this light is considered ambient light. So it's coming from this window, bouncing off the floor, and then it's filling in this space with light. That's going to be what's considered ambient light. Let's take a closer look so we can see how it's affecting our talent here. Now, this could be a great thing. This is a great base to start with. It's a little dark, so you'd want to bump up the exposure a little bit, either bring in some other lights or change your ISO or something like that. But even though we have no lights set up in this room, you can see there's still some light on our talent. It's coming in from these windows, like I said before, bouncing off the ground, bouncing off the room, and that is what's going to be lighting our subject. Now, if you want to start bringing in your own light sources, then you're going to be looking at getting a key light and a fill light. And the key light is the main source of light, and this is what's going to be mostly illuminating your subject. The fill light, like it says here, is a supplementary light that is going to be used to lighten the shadows. So you're going to be using that to create the contrast between the key light and the other side of the face. So in this shot here, we have one key light which is coming in from camera left here and is illuminating the right side of our talent. This is what's going to be considered the key light or main light. Next, we're going to bring in a fill light. And this fill light is going to be coming from the opposite side, so this is going to be coming from camera right, and is going to be filling the left side of our talent's face. There's also some wrapping around onto the right side, but it's still considered a fill light because it's complementary to the key light, where it's filling in the shadows on that dark side. Now if we go back to the key light, you can see here, you see all those shadows. Now here's the fill light, filling up those shadows, and then here's both of them together. We've also added a backlight just to brighten up the scene a little bit. But as you can see, going from key light, fill light, you can see how we've put those two together to create a really nice looking image. The next light we're going to look at has a couple names, and this can be either called the back, rim, or hair light. They all do the same thing, just depends on what you're actually lighting. And this is a light placed on your subject, which gives the appearance of a light outline. Let's look at this scene here, how we have it set up. So we have one light in the background here, and this is going to be illuminating just this edge or rim of our subject. If we jump in closer, you can see a little better on the face how it's affecting her. So again, that light is coming in from the back, and it's just hitting this edge here. It's not lighting the face, and it's giving some really nice definition to the edge of her body. What this light can do is also help bring your talent off of the background. If you look over here, you can see how her hair and the background color aren't that different. They're both fairly dark and they kind of blend together. Now if we jump over here and we just do some of this, you can see the contrast between the two is much higher. So that's going to help pull your talent off of that backdrop. And those are going to be the three main lights you're going to use to start lighting a subject. The next thing you want to start thinking about is the quality of the light. There's mainly two types, hard light and soft light. And hard light casts strong, well-defined shadows, while soft light is the light that kind of wraps around your subject and gives softer shadows. In this scene here, we have her lit with a hard light. And this is going to be giving those shadows, as you can see from her eyelashes coming across her face. You can see her hair. And down onto her chest, you can see this hard line, her hair right there, creating this really contrasty shadow. And the main things that define the quality of the light is the size and the distance from the subject. So this is the sun, which is a very big size, but it's so far away that that's why you're creating those hard shadows. Now, if we jump over to something like a soft light, you're going to start losing all of those shadows, or at least creating them and making them a little bit softer so they're more pleasing to look at. As you can see under the eyes, you can still see it's a little dark, but it's not as jarring as it was before. The transition between the light area and the dark area is much smoother. And this is created by putting a larger source right outside of frame, so it gives that wrapping effect where this light is sort of smoothing over her face. Now that we know a little bit about the quality of light, let's take a look at a light, specifically a practical light. And a practical light is a light source that is visible when it's within your scene. So in this scene here, we have this floor lamp, and that's what's going to be considered a practical light. It's in our shot, and it's used as a prop to illuminate the scene. Now, if I turn that light on and off, you can see exactly what it's doing to the scene. We'll jump into a close-up just so you can see how it's affecting our talent, and that's on and off. And the great thing about practical lights is that you can use them to be a motivator. So this light right here looks like it's casting on her face, but actually I placed another light right outside of the frame to illuminate this side of her face. So say you're looking at this scene here and it's too dark and it doesn't make sense to have a light coming from out of the frame. What you can do is add in that practical light, and now you have a motivation or reason for putting another light outside of the frame to light your subject. Now we'll take a look at bounce lighting. And bounce lighting is lighting that is bounced off a surface, just like the name says, onto the subject in order to achieve a softer lighting effect. What we've done is we've taken this small light here, shot it into the wall, and that is bouncing off and reflecting onto our subject. Now, like we talked about before, it's all about making the light source bigger if you want to get that softer light. So if we turned this light around and just shot it directly onto the talent, our light source is only going to be this big. Now that we've shot it into the wall, we've created this giant soft light source that can bounce the light onto our talent. Here's the close-up, and this is what it's doing on and off of the talent. As you can see, it's really filling in this side of the face. We could have left it in shadow if we wanted that more contrasty look, but we wanted to fill it in and warm up the whole image. So we used that light and bounced it off the wall, and it gives us some really nice quality with no hard shadows. Next up is spot and flood. And spot is a source projecting a narrow, intense beam of light, while flood, on the other hand, is a source producing a wide beam of light with less intensity. If we take a look here, we can see that this is a very spot light, hence the name. There's an intense beam right in the center here. You can't even see the pen. And it doesn't have a very wide spread. It's very narrow and focused in. If we switch over to flood, on the other hand, we lose that intensity right in the center, and now we have a greater distance covered by the light. Now on to color temperature. And color temperature is the characteristic of visible light and is stated in units of absolute temperature known as Kelvin. That's a very vague definition, and what it really comes down to is what color temperature your lights are. So your lights will fit somewhere on this scale of Kelvin, and the warmer the color of the light is, the lower the Kelvin number. And the higher the Kelvin is, the more blue or cool looking the color is. So in this scene here, we have three different light sources. We have the daylight coming in here, which is around 6,000 Kelvin. We have this lamp, or the practical, and that's at 3,200 Kelvin. And then we have this really orangey red light coming in from our key light, and that is going to be at 2,800 Kelvin. Now remember, all of these numbers and the color that they produce is going to be relative to what your camera's set at. So in this case, my camera was set at 4,300 degrees Kelvin. Now what that's going to do is make all of the numbers above that bluer and all the numbers below that more orange. Now I can run through a couple of these different feels so you can see, and all I'm doing here is changing the color temperature. This is the key light at 6,000 Kelvin, matching that outdoor light. You're getting a very blue, cold feel. And this is something that you can really use to adjust the mood of your scene. Now, if I wanted to get all those lights to be white so that key light isn't blue on the talent, what I can do is adjust that light to 4300. Now we're getting a nice white light on the talent. I also changed the practical to be that white light. But the thing we didn't change was the sky out here. That's still at 6000 Kelvin. And what we can do if we want to get that outside light to match the inside light is we can change all of our settings, including our camera, to 6000. So here's that same shot, but now we have our light on our talent at 6000. We have our window light coming in at 6000. And we have our practical light at 6000 Kelvin. And all I've done here is change the color temperature of the camera and the lights. So this is something you can play around with, and you can really get creative to make it feel how you want it to feel. The last thing I wanted to talk about is contrast ratio, and I'm also going to throw in high and low key lighting in this because they kind of fit in talking about the ratios. So first we'll talk about what is high key. High key lighting is lighting where there's very little shadow. It's lit very brightly, which you'll see a lot of the time on like daytime talk shows or commercials where the feel is going for very happy and bright. Next is low key lighting, which is the opposite. It's very contrasty, very dark. You see this a lot in narrative type films and can be usually attributed to something that's a little more dark or mysterious. And you really just have to choose which look you're going for. Now, talking about the contrast ratios, we're going to be looking at the face in particular, but a contrast ratio is just going to be the ratio between the brightest brights and the darkest darks in a scene. We're just going to be looking at the face because it's a little easier to demonstrate for you. With high key lighting, you're going to have a very low contrast ratio. So in this shot here, our talent is lit from both sides evenly. This is going to give us a 1-to-1 contrast ratio. That means the key light and the fill light have the same amount of power. Now, if we jump over to the low key image, we're going to be looking at something that's closer to a 4-to-1. That means that the key light is 4 times brighter than the fill light, or the dark side of the face. Now, this ratio can be used for anything in a scene. It could be the talent to the background. Let's say that our talent is a 3-to-1 to the background. Now we know that we need to light the talent 3 times brighter than the background. We could also do this if there was multiple talents in the scene. We could have one talent be at a 2-to-1 ratio. So we have one talent that's twice as bright as other talent in the scene if you're trying to point them out or make them pop. And you can really use this to tell your story better. That's all for now. If you guys have any questions on any of the terms that I covered, leave them in the comments below. Also, if you want me to dive in deeper on any specific one, leave that in the comment section below. And I'll try to make a video covering even more of these terms and maybe go into some advanced stuff. Also, let me know what you think of this format. I'm really digging it, and I'd love to do more stuff like this. So let me know what you think, and head on over to lensprotogo.com and start shooting. Bye.